How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Starve Together MODlight. Today we are going to be taking a look at a single mod, but boy is it a big one. It's called Green World by Kasab, and it adds new weapons, spells, creatures, locations, most of them being green. This mod has a few configurations, but by and large I think it's mostly reasonable to keep it the way it is. So we're not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to generate a world. And by the way, you will need to generate a new world for this because it has its own special biome in it. So we're going to enable it, generate the world, and get started. Now, this is a mod that I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to showcase it because there is a wealth of items that have been added and whatnot, you know, in addition to the new biome. So I just sort of gave up on that, and I thought I would give you some of my personal highlights instead of trying to be entirely comprehensive. So before we actually get into the new biome, I just want to show you some of the new items that have been added. All of these are to the magic tab. I don't think there have been any items added to other tabs. But as you can see here, there's quite a few items, right? Now, some of them are going to be familiar to you. For example, you know, here's the gift of Thor. This is that hammer that you could use in the forge to target things with the smash jump, right? It had an AoE effect and everything like that. It still has the cooldown here. Now, you might think, well, okay, is this just a mod that ports over some of the weapons and stuff from the forge? And in some ways it does. Like right here is the Book of Flame. You can use it to just summon the fire elemental. I think it's the fire elemental. I forget exactly what it summons. But in addition to that, you know, you do have new things here. For example, these scrolls that you can create. There is a wizard hat and a wizard's coat, which affect slightly the use of the scrolls, if I'm not mistaken. I think they only affect the scrolls. So right here you have Frost Nova, Crushing Wave, Meteor, Chain Lightning, and Tranquility. Tranquility is really probably one of the most interesting ones. And to honestly demonstrate it, I'm going to need to take some damage. Okay, that's enough, spider. So here we go, Tranquility. If you read it like this, and you might be familiar with this, and it will heal your character up quite quickly. You'll find out that this will be very important later on, as there is a boss that this mod introduces that is quite difficult to kill, and I think it would be almost impossible without at least using that spell a fair amount. We also have the Frost Nova here. Just cast that on this bird. You notice it creates a temporary ring of ice around whatever it is that you've targeted. This could be useful for holding enemies in place, I imagine. There is a rolling wave. This one will cause waves to crash over things in its path, freezing them, as you can see right there. Froze 2 rabbits and a bird in this small example, but you know, it's obviously probably not something you'd be normally using it on. There is a meteor as well. I'm not sure there's a really good way to demonstrate the meteor, but it can kill a rabbit in one hit. And then of course there is also chain lightning. So if we can find a few more mobs around here. And one of the biggest problems using these spells is that they have a fair duration that it takes to cast them. But there you got an idea of what it does. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, and honestly the price for it might be a little bit out of line in relationship to what it does. But like I said before, it's important, I think, to make the distinction because this mod is more than simply porting things over from the forge. It incorporates the forge items into a little narrative all of their own in many ways. Wizard's coat, wizard's hat. Now, according to the documentation, these either reduce the cooldown rate or increase damage. I forget which one does exactly which, but I think we're going to be using these from now on here just to keep with the theme. There are a couple of other things here. The blast dart is, once again, a weapon you might be familiar with from the forge in here. But we have some other very unique new content here, those being these glyphs. Now, the glyphs require something rather special, and at the moment, I'm not sure exactly how you get things like fire essence or lightning essence. I have seen the poison essence drop, so we're going to go ahead and craft this one. The poison essence, for me, has been dropping frequently from the new snake mobs in the green world, the green biome. Then it also has an antidote, which you can craft from the poison essence as well. This will prevent you from either getting poisoned or cure poison that's already been applied to you. Now, the glyphs are very interesting because you can use it on regular weapons. So, for example, if you're a common user of a ham bat, for example, you can take the green glyph here and you can hover it over the ham bat and right-click to enhance the item. And now you'll notice that when this item is equipped, I can swap between it. So when the item is equipped, you'll have a special little icon that pops up and it tells you what the perks of this glyph provide to the user of the weapon. So in our case, it adds poisonous attacks to the weapon from the glyph item. And whenever we attack enemies, they'll become poisoned because we're using this weapon. As I pointed out before, there are multiple other ones, and really these are usually better at demonstrating exactly what it is that they do because they have something more visual. For example, the yellow glyph, which provides lightning. So I'm just going to craft a couple of those. We'll also craft a couple of dark swords to put them on, and then we're going to go ahead and head into the new biome, the green world biome, as you could say. So I've got both of these here, enhanced, enchanted, and as you can see when we switch over to them, the icon, the perk there changes. Now you can't enhance two of them at the same time though, so I think that's a bit important to note, or you can't add two enhancements to it at the same time. Let's take a look at the map here. Here you can see the new biome that's been added. Now in the past it has generated a bigger area for me most of the time. This one is relatively small. There are a couple of unique points of interest on these maps though. So by and large, most of it is sort of a green swamp that will be occupied by lizardmen, and the new green wet tentacle, which is similar to a regular tentacle, except it has range damage. Now, as I said before, I thought I'd give you a bit of an overhead view of what the biome itself looks like. So just going to do a little bit of traveling here. And as you can see, there's a forest biome generated sort of in the middle of it, and this is quite common. And then there is also this very mysterious statue here, Touch the Ancient Watcher, as well as a rather interesting little pig statue that you can find in this swamp as well. But they have their own uses, and one is a puzzle and one is a boss fight. So that might give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect there. There are a couple of unique mobs, as I pointed out here before, in this biome. They're quite deadly, and we should get to it before evening comes because I would like to demonstrate that separately. So here we go. This is the new wet green tentacle. It looks like a regular tentacle, but it is noticeably different in that it does ranged damage. So if we get too close to it here, not only can it do the standard tentacle attack, but now it will attack me with a ranged attack. And this ranged attack is not messing around. It does a fair amount of damage even when you have armor on, so you probably want to stay away from it. It also has a fair amount of range, but fortunately, to actually aggro it, you have to get relatively close. There's also been a new food item, I guess, food source introduced, the Marsh Bear. Now, when you pick marsh berries, much like a twiggy bush, or a spiky bush, I should say, it will hurt you if you do that, but it yields 2 berries. Obviously, you want to use armor, and in addition to this, you can also dig them up and replant them. So if you're looking for what I would assume to be a bit of a year-round source of berries, you could go ahead and plant these by digging them up and replacing them in somewhere a little bit more convenient for you, much as you would with a spiky bush. You might be noticing that we have some snakes crawling around over here. So let's go and pay them a visit. As you can see, they come from these little snake holes in the ground. A bit similar to rabbits, I suppose you could say. And these snakes can poison you if you're not careful. In that case, I actually killed it, but we can bait out attack it a few times, and snake's dead. Snakes are the ones that I have noticed dropping the poison essence specifically. If we could find some more snakes, I want one to poison me because poison has now been reintroduced, similar to shipwrecked here, now though in Green World. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing as many snakes as I usually do. Usually they seem to hang around the forest here in the center, but you'll also find some snake holes in the marsh itself. But yeah, right here we have another snake. And let's just see here. Okay, immediately poisoned. Not sure if it's 100% chance or not, but yeah, we immediately got poisoned by that. I wish one would drop the antidote, because at the moment I'm taking damage. You'll notice that's 84 health right now, 83. I am currently taking damage from this poison, 82, and I would eventually cure myself, but the antidote would make things a lot easier if it would just drop it, and I'm not seeming to have much luck here. Like, holy crap. Yeah, we have been having quite bad drop rates here so far. Haven't received the antidote once, which is really sad. I've received it in the past, but not this time. Oh, there we go. Antidote. Oh, and another antidote, like one drops right after the other. Okay, let's pick these up. You can't use them on their own to cure you, though. Just go ahead here, make the antidote. We can eat it, and as you can see, now we're cured of poison, and we're immune to poison as well. So there are a couple of other things that I wanted to demonstrate in a little bit more detail, I guess. But I also mentioned that this mod introduced the Lizardmen. They're not normally aggressive towards you, but if you attack them, they will have a bit of a ranged attack. So I think that's worth demonstrating because, you know, as they were in the Forge, right? You know, they could spit attack at you, basically. And that most certainly applies here as well. Now, we can't get poisoned because we have the current immune to poison, but at other times, it's most certainly possible for them to poison you if you attack them. But fortunately, by default, they're not aggressive. So they're one of the mobs that have been sort of added to this biome that are not immediately out to get the player, basically. And they spawn from these little lizardmen caves. So I think that demonstrates a fair amount of the new content available through Green World. As you can tell, this mod adds a lot more content than most, and I think it was worth dedicating an entire episode to it. But we are running a little long here, so just one last thing, I think, to demonstrate before we go, and that is just to reassure you that yes, indeed, the Grand Forge Warrior is in this mod, and it's pretty obvious at this point that he is pretty much going to kill you. Now, we're going to equip our enhanced dark sword with electric attacks. We're going to see if we can get at least one good electric attack off on him. Here he is. He does hit for a fair amount of damage, as you can see there. I'm not getting any electric attacks, so rip that. But that's him. That's him, and you can fight him. You can fight him if you want. He is the boss, basically, of this mod, and he's going to kill you, essentially. He's pretty powerful, but he has some very cool loot drops as well to get if you actually beat him. So that does it for Green World. Definitely one of the most impressive mods that I've seen on the workshop in a long time. It's clear that a lot of work has gone into it. I think it most certainly deserved a little bit more attention here. That's why I dedicated the entire episode to it. So check out the mod itself. The link will be in the description if you like it. Thank the creator for taking the inordinate amount of time I imagine it took to create and share it with us. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.